It's time once again for the National Toilet Weekly Podcast. Episode 4, April 15th, 2011. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the National Toilet, the podcast where we take the worst of society and flush it down where it should go. We have the Smithsonian for the best. Why not the National Toilet for the worst? First of all, I have good news. As you can tell, the U.S. budget has been funded for the rest of the fiscal year. In the 11th hour, Democrats and Republicans reached a quote-unquote compromise. The national toilet is still open for business. Now the bad news. This so-called compromise has sold the poor, middle class, and environment down the river. $38 billion in budget cuts, 5 times larger than any cuts in history. Receiving the axe were cuts to public health, $1 billion, the EPA, $1.6 billion, and high-speed rail projects, $2.9 billion. One of the few areas to receive an actual increase, defense spending, is up $5 billion to $513 billion. And the fun isn't over. Coming next month, the U.S. will hit its debt ceiling, threatening its credit rating and solvency issues unless another quote-unquote compromise is reached. Will the U.S. credit go down into the national toilet? Stay tuned and find out. Now let's turn to other matters. In the shithole this week, Johnson & Johnson. This week they ordered yet another recall of one of their products. 57,000 bottles of a popular epilepsy drug because of a strange chemical odor. This brings the total number of recalls to 22 and the number of bottles to over 300 million since 2009. And as the race for President 2012 begins to heat up, one turd has emerged as a potential candidate, Donald Trump. This failed businessman with the strangest hair this side of Rod Blagojevich has been upping the rhetoric recently, sparking rumors that he will run and pumping up ratings for Celebrity Apprentice. The Donald has made a point of questioning Barack Obama's birth certificate, keeping this non-issue front and center in voters' minds. This week, Trump blamed, quote-unquote, the blacks for the election of Obama. We're not going to wait for him to announce his candidacy to... And over in Hollywood, trashy literature collides with schlocky production values to produce Atlas Shrugged Part 1. The long-delayed project written by hack novelist Ayn Rand, who rallied against government and socialism while secretly taking Medicare and Social Security payments for herself. The Washington Post surmised by saying the movie is, quote-unquote, nearly as stilted, didactic, and simplistic as Rand's free market fable. Speaking of stilted, didactic, and simplistic, the movie is being marketed towards the Tea Party, whose childlike interpretations of the Constitution easily jibe with Rand's idiocy. Even if this movie doesn't tank, it's going into the septic tank. Oops, hey, we're just about out of time again. Tune in next week for another edition by watching on our YouTube channel, The National Toilet, subscribing to the podcast in iTunes, and liking us on Facebook. Thank you, everybody. Good night.